right, let's decorate these cookies. Now, regardless of how you made your cookie, whether you did the cookie cutter version or you made your own, we're going to take our next step, and that is first to make your cookie look a little bit cooked, if you will. We cannot burn it. So we have a burn tool on here, but we can't use the burn tool because these are shapes. These are not technically pixels, so we can't burn on shapes without rasterizing the shapes, and we're not going to do that. So what we are going to do is create a new layer. So you're going to come down and hit your new layer button, and then once you make that new layer, I'm going to call this burn, and we're going to just kind of lightly burn on this cookie. So we're going to make our color. So when you come over here to your color, just make it kind of a dark, brown-ish, grayish color. Take your paintbrush. And you're going to want to have a really big, really soft brush. So when you click your down arrow, hardness all the way down and make it pretty big. You can still push your bracket keys to the right of the letter P to make your brush bigger and smaller. And I like to use a really big brush. All right, so now we're going to burn on here. It's going to be a little bit too much, as you'll see. So I'm going to come to the toe here and just start doing this. But the other thing is, if we just start going right now, that's going to happen. That's bad. I'm going to undo that. We want to make sure that we can't burn outside the cookie. So we're going to come over to the cookie layer, and you're going to point to the thumbnail. That's the little part that has the eyeball next to it. And you're going to hold down Control and click. All right, now what that's done is put little marching ants around your cookie over here. Now, again, we don't want to be cooked. We don't want to be clicked on that layer. We want to be clicked on the burn layer, okay? Now that I'm on the right layer, when I start doing this stuff, and again, this is going to look weird because it's going to be too dark. When I start doing that stuff, it's only going to do it to that specific layer, okay? So I'm going to come over here, burn over here on this side as well. All right, now the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to change this blending mode. So we want it to, we're going to come down to soft light so that it's going to be a much lighter thing. See, that's a lot easier to look at. And then we're going to pull the opacity back. There we go. So that it's just light. Okay. And there we go. So this is kind of giving us a burn effect just to kind of make it look a little different throughout so it's not all just perfect. Again, very soft brush, big brush. Don't use a little one or you'll be able to see it too much. Okay, now that I've got that all done, we're going to get rid of those little marching ants. Press Control D to get rid of the marching ants. And all that did was just make sure we couldn't paint outside the lines, basically. All right, at this point, all you got to do is make a new layer and start icing. And you're going to ice with your paintbrush. So I would suggest that you zoom up. So take your zoom tool and really zoom up on here as you're working on these pieces. And then I also suggest thinking about your icing and kind of like if there's icing you would do first, do it lower. So for instance, I'm just going to make a red icing layer. And then I'm going to take a paintbrush. Now with your icing, you don't want to have a soft brush. You want it to be completely hard because the edges of your icing should be solid, okay? And then bring that size of the brush down. By the way, Photopea is a little bit glitchy when your brush gets kind of big, so you just kind of have to be patient. All right, I'm using about a 10 pixel brush here, and I'm going to come to the top color and choose white all the way top corner. And then now you're going to start drawing whatever it is you want to have on there. So let's say I want to have some little... I just said red icing, didn't I? That's okay. We're going to make this one white. All right, so I got this going over here. La, 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 la. Again, I'm having some glitchy problems today. Yay me. Okay. And then anywhere else, of course, that you want to add any extra little things. And you're going to repeat this process with your different icing colors. I suggest, and it's not that you have to, I suggest putting each color kind of on its own layer. I just think that works better. So I'm going to call this white icing. And then I would suggest adding some sort of something to make it look a little more, I don't know, fancy. We're going to do a little bit of an inner shadow. So you're going to hit your effects layer style button and go to inner shadow. And definitely not that much. You want to keep it real simple. So just barely, kind of like that. Just barely. So not much at all, but enough to where it's not perfectly perfect, I guess you'd say. And you can pull the multiply. You can pull this opacity down a little bit as well. All right, I'm going to hit OK. All right, so now we've got that kind of on the white icing. And if you add additional things, they're going to already have that little glow kind of thing happening. See? All right, and then just make you another layer, and then you can do, whatever. So now maybe I'll do my red icing. and say I want to give it some little shorts or whatever. So I'll come click here. I'll choose a shade of red, maybe down a dark color, and then come down here and paint in or whatever, you know, that part. Now I think that probably if I was really painting this on or icing a thing, I would more than likely put my white on top, you know. So, and I really need to use a bigger brush. I'm going to use my bracket keys on the letter P so I can use a bigger brush. Now when you ice, you're not going to go past the edges of your cookie. So make sure you don't go past the edges on here either. So make sure you're careful about that. If you go too far, you can always use an eraser. Remember, this is all destructive. We're just putting this in here with a paintbrush. So no big deal. Okay. This doesn't, red pants don't look the prettiest in the world here. Okay. So we got that going on here. All right. And then you should see me ice real cookies. It's just about this bad. Okay. So say I got my red icing. You want to have that same layer style. So this inner shadow here, I'm just going to right click this and copy the layer style. So you go all the way down to the word layer style. And then when you click on it, copy. You can't see the word copy, but it popped up. And then come to the red icing layer. You're going to right click, go to layer style, and go to paste. And that's going to use that exact same shadow. Okay. Now, if I wanted to, I could move my white icing on top. And see, now that little button is on top of there. And I could switch back to white. Though I really don't suggest going back and forth like I'm doing, just because you want to make sure you're using the same brush size all the time. And now I have no idea what my initial brush size was. But anyway. And then like here, if I wanted to put these on top, you know, they're going to be on a higher layer. So it's going to make more sense. Anyway, that's basically the gist of it. I'm going to zoom out, Control minus. And, you know, you can add additional colors, you know, make another layer. I just strongly suggest making a new layer as you're doing each of those things. You could duplicate a layer and then erase everything off of it so it already has that shadow on there if you wanted to. I'll do that with this white, well, not the white icing. I'll do it with the red icing layer. So I'm going to click and drag to the new piece of paper button down here. That makes a copy. I'm going to call it black icing. And then I'm just going to take an eraser over here. And I'm going to erase. Oops. Yeah, there you go. I'm erasing. Turn my red icing off so you can see. I just erased the red icing that was on the black icing. And then I can come over here, click on my black icing layer, grab a hold of my paintbrush, and then put in my little eyes or mouth or whatever I want to add in there. There we go. And then I'll turn my red layer back on. And that's it. So once you're finished, you will turn off your background layer. And then you will export this out as a PNG file. PNGs can have transparent backgrounds. JPGs cannot. So if you go to JPG right now, it's going to put the white background back on there. So don't do that. Export it as a PNG, but you should also save as a PSD. That's the editable version that has all the layers. You want to keep that editable version so that if you do decide to do something else to it, you still have that to edit. So save PSD, and then also, of course, export out that PNG file. Ginger 2, and then you can add that wherever you want to. So for instance, if I've got a Google slideshow, I could come in here, insert image, upload, and go get it, my Ginger 2, and pop it on here. Or if I want to, I could upload my plate in here, make my plate nice and good, and then move this little guy and put it on the plate. I'm going to right click, order, send to front, and there we go. We got a little gingerbread man on a plate. So there you go. And that's basically it. That's how you can decorate and export out a cute little gingerbread man using Photopea. And Photoshop, exactly the same method as well.